Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We got 2 more days, and this week we're going to continue to look at some more multimedia productions, and that is when a music video accompanies a song and enhances the song in one way or another. Today we're going to be looking at a track from Explosions in the Sky. The song's called Postcard from 1952. Let's see what they're up to today. So we have a very long crescendo here, building this atmosphere. We're working within a 6/8, and it seems to be just a solitary guitar. Now we have a reverb that's attuned to that 6/8. Interesting, we have accented 1 and the and of 3 rather than 4, which would give it a fairly standard flow to it. Actually, I don't know what I was saying. It is on 4. It's on 1 and 4. And maybe I'm hearing that 1 as an accented hit because the snare is only showing up on 4. I really like the atmosphere that they're building here. The toms are giving it this really heavy movement and a bit of driving force that we haven't seen up to this point. Yeah, we have some really nice panning that's done with harmony work, which gives the song very wide spaciousness to it. Interesting compression idea on the cymbals. They started out very clear, and now they're extremely compressed. And it was a gradual compression as well. Now our accents are on 2 and 5. Yeah, very cool stuff. Somewhere in that post-rock genre, atmospheric, uh, heavily repetitious, uh, instrumental, music that post-rock is sort of known for. Um, it's interesting. See, this is something that I've mentioned, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, about doing these multimedia tracks, is that seeing the intentional storytelling in the music told through another medium that might be a little less vague with its interpretation helps me understand uh, what the artists themselves, what the composers, the band is aiming for on some of these instrumental tracks. Because this song, taken in a vacuum, could really mean just about anything to anyone. It really depends on what the listener is bringing to the table, what they're bringing to the discussion. And I'm always curious about what the composer's intentions are with songs like this. Songs that really do seem to fit more as a sort of like a score for something else. That's not to say that the songs like this can't stand on their own merits by themselves, but I always feel like they work better with an accompanying format. Um, but on the other side of the equation, I'm also pulled out of my own mind, so to speak, because I am being force fed or spoon fed this, the intentional reading of this song. I can't inject my own thoughts into it because I'm already put into the mindset of the nostalgia, and some of the overall life stories element, the pensiveness of looking back on a life kind of idea that the music video itself is injecting into the song. It's injecting into my experience. So it's a double-edged sword. There's definitely pros to listening or to watching the music video with songs like this, but there's also some cons as well. Um, so yeah, the music. I want to dig into the music a little bit because there's some cool things that are happening in it. Before we start digging into maybe some of the larger thematic ideas that's going on here, the entire song is written in 6/8, um, and it is an evolution of a single idea, which is that primary eighth note guitar run, or I guess it's 16th notes if we're in 6/8. Um, that dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun. Wrong notes. I can't sing. I'm not a singer. But the rhythm, kind of bouncing between these two notes and having that bit of movement in the rhythm to it, that shows up so often in a guitar part, and it drives the foundation of the entire song. Now, the rhythmic aspect does change. We see that at the end when it starts to match some of the other driving elements in the song, but for the most part, in the first half or so, while we're still in the more contained musical ideas, that guitar part is pretty static. Um, and it's this slow burn evolution of this idea. The entire song is built off of the single idea. And it's really interesting to see that in light of the music video, um, because the song at least appears to be, from evidence of the music video, a sort of either look forward or look back on someone's life. And as we mentioned, it's kind of interesting how this is was it Stephen Wilson? Oh no, it was I think it was Laura Marling's when Brave Bird saved. Um, that I mentioned that we're looking at a lifetime of a family, or maybe a person. I wasn't quite sure what the connection was between some of the different actors and actresses. I'm not sure if we were seeing one person grow up or a family grow up. Um, but there is this underlining element of watching a specific person or group, a static entity, through time. And I think having that static element in the music is a way to solidify that foundational work, to say that, much like in When Brave Bird Saved, that we have all these other elements that are added. The family grows, the person's experiences through life changes them. They have different elements that come in, but the foundational work, this person or these people, depending on if it is about a single person or a family, a group, they don't change. They're a static element in this bubble of time. And I love how that element, that foundational work, can sit there and exist throughout the entire piece, just as they exist throughout this entire pocket of time. Um, but it also makes it so that post rock is just such a perfect genre to explore this in, because a lot of the post rock we've checked out works on this concept of taking a singular idea and just stretching it. We've listened to post rock that might move between two or three different ideas, but we've also listened to some post rock that takes a single concept and pushes it into double digit time. Moving into that 10-minute range. And like I said, post rock just seems perfect, a perfect genre, a perfect style of writing to fit with this thematic idea of looking at what a static object becomes over time. So we have that element that works very well. The 6/8 is interesting. I'm curious what their reasoning was for picking it. Is it just something they went with? They had a rhythmic element that they felt was nice, and it just happened to fit 6/8, or is there anything important about 6/8? Like when we checked out Steven Wilson's routine, and the time signature helped inform some of the thematic elements in the storytelling. Because 6/8 it's a standard time signature. I would put it alongside 3/4 and 4/4 as a fairly normal, everyday time signature. Um, but it also tends to bring with it specific ideas. The 6 is not exactly something that is always even. We can divide it up into even things. This song divides it up into two pockets of 3 commonly. We also hit some interesting parts at the end. Well, actually, there's still two pockets of 3, aren't they? We'll get into that later because they changed up the accented beats in the last minute of the song, but it retains the flow and pulse. It's just offset by a beat. So that was interesting. But yeah, the whole song keeps this pocket of 2 sets of 3. So I suppose there isn't any irregularity there. If you do 3 pockets of 2, though, now you have an odd number of packs, an odd number of groupings, and your accents can get a little chaotic there. It can feel a little bit disjointed. But here they kept it fairly similar. And actually, if you feel it in, if you feel it as triplets, I could not do this. I think the tempo would be too slow. But if you feel it in triplets with the first note of the triplet being the pulse, you can feel it in a slow 4/4 as well. I don't think that works. I think the tempo is just a bit too slow to match this, but I suppose that would work. So I'm sure some people hear it like that, and again, there's just a lot of stability in the music. Now, if we look at some of the thematic ideas in the music, there's a lot of positivity in here. There's not a lot of instability. There's not a lot of darkness. There's not a lot of elements that would imply anything other than joy of some sort. There is a little bit of thoughtfulness, though. Some pensive elements, a little bit of nostalgia. I'm not going to say it's full on melancholy, but there's definitely some sort of happy sadness, I suppose you could say. I hope that makes sense. Probably might be for the older crowd who might have experienced some happy sadness. Um, but yeah, like I said, and a part of that could just be that there's an element of this video that, to me at least, feels like it's looking towards the past. There's this nostalgia of looking at the happy times or remembering the happy times, and even the imperfections and seeing the joy in those imperfections. Like at the very beginning, we have the mother and the 2 kids, and they're supposed to be taking a nice family picture, and the one on the left turns to look at the other one with a little bit of a grimace. And the family picture of everyone smiling at the camera has been ruined, but it's one of those pictures that I'm sure the mother would keep just because there's, a little bit of comedy to it. Yeah, it's a picture that wasn't intended, but it's a happy accident. There's a story to tell. No different than the birthday cake, where you could see that the birthday boy was his lips were bubbling around, and you could tell that he was possibly spitting on the cake rather than just blowing on it. And the kid next to him had a little bit of a stern face, a little upset, and it's just one of those pictures. Of course, it's called Postcards from 1952. This whole idea of visual format is a way of hyper expressing the static ideas that we find in pictures. And we can actually see a lot of these elements could be single frames, even despite them adding the subtle movement to them. I think most of us could understand what the original picture framing would have been in a hypothetical sense that these are real pictures. So again, it's a happy accident. It's not necessarily what the person with the camera might have been aiming for. They might have wanted a happy birthday party, but instead they get this story to tell in the pictures. We have the one kid upset. We have the other kid not necessarily, only using air to blow these candles out. Um, and there's a bit of that funny story that definitely, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from now, somebody finds the picture, either one of the boys, maybe the mother, and they think back on it, and you get that happy nostalgia. It might not have been the best moment when it happened, but when you look back on it, you're gonna have that happy sadness, that nostalgia, for that time. And I think that the music, the emotions, and the atmosphere do a really great job of capturing that that pensive nostalgia, looking back at the happy times and even not the happy times, but still finding the joy in them, being able to still get a laugh out of these events that might not have been as happy when they happened. But then there's also the other half of this video where we have the complete and utter joy, such as the kids running through the sprinkler on a hot summer day. Um, there's really nothing negative about those pictures. Some of the facial expressions on the kids could be seen as not exactly uh, what the photographer was intending for, but it captures the element. And I think that's the big takeaway here is it's not necessarily about the perfections of the past. It's about the imperfections and the stories that led up to them. And I think it's awesome how they took this framing device for the music video instead of just showing still shots of this family. They have these extremely slow motion, high frame rate, almost like moving pictures, right? Like I mentioned, we can see probably what the original frame was that would have constituted this postcard or this photograph. But we're also getting a bit of the before and after through the slow motion movement. And I think that is just a wonderful way to do it because, again, taking on this idea that we are, journeying back into the past through our memories, we might remember stuff in this manner. We remember the incident. We might remember a little bit before it. We might remember a little bit after it. Um, and it's not at least for me anyways. I know different people remember things differently, but for me, I don't typically remember static pictures. I tend to remember movement video in a sense. So I don't know. I think it's just a fascinating way to frame this music video, and the music just works very well with it, creating the perfect atmosphere and emotional landscape for the concept that Explosions in the Sky is looking to dive into and explore. And I mentioned at the end, we have this huge ramp up in energy, starting about 2 minutes before the end and ending a little bit before the end. We do have a bit of a revisiting of the isolation of the smaller section there for an outro, but we do have this massive buildup. It's what the whole song has been working towards. And this the symbols, man, it's very interesting. We were building up into that final big climactic moment, and the cymbals started playing on I don't remember I think it was just every 1 and 4, I think. Um, and then slowly they were getting more and more compressed until we hit that final climactic moment, and they has this sizzle on top of it. It's very interesting. Um, it fits. It for whatever reason I would never have thought to do this in my life, but I'm also not inclined for engineering. I'm more about the raw music, what's on the sheet music, what's on the paper. But I don't know, it's very interesting to my ears. It's very confusing. My ears immediately were drawn to it. Just very strange sounds, but like I said, it fit for some reason. I'm not really sure why. So we have that element going on. Everything else is getting bigger though, and coming up to this moment, everything up to this point, we've had accents on 1 or 4. I think it's always been 4, and then sometimes we've had a 1 on there as well. But really, we've got this backbeat. Beat 4 of every accent. Beat 4 of every bar has had a snare accent on it. And coming up to this point, we've shifted that from 4 to 5. And it's just a hair bit later. And as we start to get louder and louder, we begin to also get snares on 2. So we still have it every 3 beats. We're still getting this pocket of 3 beats or 3 notes. So we still have this the stability in our flow, in our pulse, but we've shifted it a little bit, and it threw me off. It really did. I'm really not sure what this giant explosion of energy in the sound represents. I didn't really see anything that was different in the video that would have clued me into it. Just to me, it's just what post-rock does. Post-rock takes an idea and builds. And the slow burn requires a climax. And that's kind of what I get out of it. But I would love to know if anybody has any other ideas about why we would have this climax in something that completely otherwise. The other 80% of the song is predicated on this idea of nostalgia and looking in on the past and having this pensive thoughtfulness about the past ideas, this melancholic nostalgia, I guess you could say. And that part just seems to run counter to that entire atmosphere that they built prior to it and that they returned to after it. And I suppose that could be maybe a bad memory, being reminded about some some sad times or something that didn't go too well. I know one of the scenes that was shown was one kid getting ready to punch another kid, but I don't know. I feel like I'm stretching it at that. I'm really trying to mold the theming or the storytelling to fit what was played. I don't necessarily feel that 100%. So, yeah. Like I said, if anybody has any information regarding the intentions there. And also, I think that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. If you have any other comments, maybe I'm completely off on this and I read way too much into the music video and, this isn't what they were necessarily intending for, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Right? And if you have any other comments, let me know about those. Maybe you enjoyed this. Maybe you've never heard of explosions in the sky and you're just blown away. You got to go find out more of them. Let me know all sorts of stuff that you're thinking. Drop them down there in the comments. Above the comment box, there's a description box, and there's a link in there for Linktree, which is a fantastic resource. It takes you to a menu with links for everything related to the channel. You can join the Discord, support me through Patreon, follow me on Twitter. You can find all those links in there and more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We have one more video coming out in 50 seconds. Probably, actually, if you watch this through to the credits, it'll then be available. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as always. We'll be looking at our final multimedia track, as well as looking at music from a band who has contacted me, wants me to specifically check out their stuff. This is going to be a smaller group, as we typically do on Fridays. And I urge everyone to check it out. Every Friday I do this. I think it's awesome to see what up-and-coming musicians are doing. It's not always the most polished stuff. It's not always the most mind-blowing music I've ever heard, but I think it's fantastic to see people taking up music and trying to make music and helping them have a bit of a platform and showcase some of their music and try to help them get kickstarted if that's something that I can help with, and also provide some criticism and help them grow as musicians. We all need a little bit of help. Criticism and feedback is the way to do that. You can't improve if everybody just keeps telling you that what you're doing is great. You're never going to try new things or fix what's broken. So I do what I can to help smaller composers and musicians, help get off the ground and do what they want to do. Some people just really love making music, and I like helping people get to a point where maybe they can find some stability financially, possibly to help fund their ability to do that. I feel like I'm rambling now, so we're gonna just finish this one up. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.